Hello.
This is LARP Lux. I'm Charlie.
I'm Danielle.
And today we're going to be recapping our E3 events.
Yeah, our event that we've just come from.
Yes.
It is only a few days after we've come back. I'm still sunburned. I'm still recovering. There's a bunch of stuff that's still in the car that we need to unpack.
There is.
But who cares about that? I want to talk about the event that we just had.
Talk about it. Tent set up. Record time.
Yeah, what was it?
Very
Like 35 minutes. 35 minutes. We set a whole bell tent up.
That's pretty good. That's very good, actually.
It's better than last event, which took us 2 hours.
Yeah,
but it was also raining last time.
Yeah. But we did that, and then I shuffled off to the Blanket Bazaar, which is a player-run, outside of character event where basically there are so many creatives on the field, and it's nice for them to try and make a little bit of like barbarian money before the game. Barbarian money, normal money, and normal money,
innocent money.
And it's just like a really nice space. I'm really glad I did it. I almost did it last time, but again, rain happened. And yeah, so worth it. I went along. The social aspect of it was really good.
Yeah.
The sensory aspect was a bit of a struggle. However, I have my ear filters with me.
Yes, which I was very jealous of.
Yes, on this event, and that means that like they look like kind of like some kind of earplug, but there's like a hole through them, and they're really good at kind of helping you focus on certain sounds and kind of block out other sounds, which is very helpful.
The way you explain them to me, because I get the same thing. I can get overstimulated in a very highly stimulating environments. That's what I would call them.
Yeah.
And I went along to the Blanket Bazaar while you were still there, but about an hour or so after you started, because I finished unpacking all of our stuff, set some of it up, basically got our bed and things ready.
Yeah. And
then went to the Blanket Bazaar, and I found it to be very overwhelming. It was very loud. Everything's happening inside a tent, and I was very jealous of your what did you call them?
Ear filters.
Ear filters.
Yeah.
Because the way you described them was that they kind of cut out as best they can like background noise and do let you focus in on the people, and I'm like, that's all I want to do, because I can hear everyone at the same time equally, and I don't want to hear that, and that's overwhelming. I want to focus on the person that I'm focusing on, so I think I'm going to be getting some of those for next event.
I also found, I think I would like to try some of the like other brands, or the ones that seem to be like slightly more intense or something like that. What do I mean? Like almost like they are more restrictive on the sound than the ones that I already have. Mine are rather simple ones, but to get ones that have a bit more restriction going on, just to see how they work, because I know that someone who was like sat on the same level as me, or like on the ground, I could hear them a lot better than someone who was sat like just above me, and I'm like, I think that would.
I suppose especially when you're because the Blanket Bazaar, you're sitting on the floor, or close to the floor. Some people aren't, but you were sitting on the floor, and if a customer is talking to you and they're standing, that elevation difference probably feels like it's going to be quite difficult to hear.
But that aside, they were really helpful for the whole event, so I would recommend them for anyone. It's one of these things where through big events, and like I went to like UK Games Expo a few years back, but I wore them at that, and that was very helpful. And you don't realise the difference that it makes until you just realise that you've just got a bit more energy and can do a bit more than like you would in a comparable event. Because
I had to like leave. Basically, I knew I'm tuned in enough at the moment to my own body where I knew I was like, this is overstimulating. I'm gonna leave. I'll get some food. I'll come back. When I come back in, I'm not gonna go around. I'll sit by the side of the tent. So I managed it. But theoretically restricted my ability to navigate the tent and engage in that. So I'm taking up your advice next event and getting some of that.
But overall, it was really great to talk to people, got friendly with some people. I actually mentioned that I was going to try and go to the Forge for the first time on the Thursday night, and the person next to me was like, I've been wanting to do that again for like some time, but for some reason I haven't. And we ended up going to the Forge and seeing them there.
Yeah, they were there.
Bumping into some other people that we knew from met in the previous event. And then just like, it was just a really good night. And we're not big drinkers, but we decided we'll drink a little bit for this night and just have fun and meet people. And it was really worth it. Is it interesting that I felt at the time like meeting some of those people, even some of the new people, I was like, oh, sometimes maybe they will come back to us in the game.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
That never happened. Yeah.
But I think it still set us up for the game in such a nice way of just getting us in that social mode.
Yeah, I think so, because we're there to socialise ultimately. Empire LARP is a big social game. We're there to talk to people, we're there to roleplay with people, and I think it set up the weekend fantastically to be like on Thursday evening we're just chatting to people, chatting to new people, chatting to old people, chatting to people I've never spoken to before. And I agree, yeah, I felt like, I've got to find these people on the field. Never did. And it was fine. It was fine for those connections to exist in that sphere and that sphere only. It was a lot of fun.
The only thing it led to was like not the best sleep or not the most sleep, I guess.
Yeah, I think because of the alcohol, it impacts your sleep quality negatively.
Yeah.
And we were also up a bit later than we would normally be.
Were we up later?
I think we went to bed at like midnight or something.
Oh, like awake later. Gotcha. Yeah. No, we were definitely going to bed after midnight. I think it was a couple hours after midnight.
Okay, goodness.
But I do feel like, just like waking up the next morning, we woke up at like the time we kind of wanted to.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were a bit like, bit of a slow start there.
Yeah, we normally get up around 7:30, 8ish. Naturally, I think it starts getting a bit warm around then, especially this time of year.
Yeah.
And it's not nice to be in the tent under covers and things like that.
It's good encouragement to get.
It's very good encouragement.
Out.
So we are normally up and about, not as early as some other people, I'm sure, but early enough to get a jump start on the day.
Yeah. And so if we move forward to Friday. First and foremost, the mistake we made was not being with people, not trying to socialise out of character before time in, because we were our time was too full doing other things, basically.
Yeah. I think this is sort of an extension of something we talked about in our previous video, where we get over-focused on things like costume and set dressing and whatnot, and we were doing all of that. We were doing it far less than we ever have before, but we didn't have anything else to focus on. And the takeaway for me is that should be people. We should be spending Friday with as many people as possible. Keep that social train rolling from Thursday night and just seek out people.
I think I've tried to at least do one of the like events in the run up to the time in before as well, and it didn't do that this time. And I'm like,
is that like the new player events?
New player events, there's things like the LGBTQIA event where you can sort of come along later and socialise.
And there's the public speaking as well.
There's different things like that. Even like fighting or something I'd like to try out at some point. But like we didn't do that, and we ended up sort of, it was more chill than it has been before. Yeah. We weren't like absolutely up to the last minute or beyond it.
I wouldn't say we were really stressing about setting anything up or getting ready.
Yeah, and we on a food level, we decided to bring our own cereal, and because we have oat milk, it's like easier to keep like just cool and not worry about it going off or anything. And so that was our breakfast, which was super easy. Don't have to think about it.
Convenience. So it is not convenient to be camping, so it is about trying to bring as much of that back in so you can get on with the day. So that was a big success.
The fact that I can eat before I'm like fully dressed and stuff, I think is very helpful, because sometimes I feel like I'm a bit torn between getting fully in costume.
And we have a little stove where we make our teas in the morning, so we could always just get up, tea, cereal, crack on with the day.
And so we also picked up our scales.
We're both Nagas, so we have scales
from like Ezra, who was like very, very good at making them, and so we got those before time in, and then time in.
Time in happened, and it really is flash forward to time in. I think,
really is,
because the Friday I think there would have been more to reflect on from before time in on Friday if we'd spent it with people. But for next time. But then time in happens. Bam, we're away at the races. We're fully in character.
Debutante ball. like other things happened, I guess. I don't really know what happened between like the debutante ball and like the first meetings, I'll be honest.
No.
But we were into priest meetings.
Yeah, I think that first hour is a little bit of saying hello to everyone again.
Yeah.
And could have done that earlier, but I think it's like, oh hey, have you been, very very briefly, because everyone is going about and doing their own sort of things immediately.
Yeah.
But you're right. Other than that, it's just like straight into those priest meetings at the very beginning of the event, the National Assembly and the Virtual Assembly.
Yeah. So I went to the National. Well, we both went to the National Assembly, and honestly, I really like the League National Assembly. I think it's always lively. It's always like full of like debate and things get brought up.
Yeah.
I think I was at this event. I didn't have a judgment up front, and I was open to in that meeting if someone was like, oh, could someone put forward this judgment, like being the person who puts their hand up to do that. There was one opportunity, but they were like, it's better this person's from this kind of place, and I was like, okay,
they were
after
a person specific from a region which you weren't from,
so that's totally fine. And I decided specifically for myself, because last time like the meetings, they can get, I don't know, it wasn't that bad, but I was like, I want to try and do something a little different with my time this evening, so I decided to bunk off my virtue assembly. But you stayed for your virtue assembly.
I did, yeah. So the meetings are I find them to be really, really helpful in learning what is going on in the world. Because at the National Assembly you're finding out what all the League priests are interested in. At the Virtue Assembly you're finding out, for me, what all the ambition priests are interested in approaching. And I think that's great. But I struggle, I think, with because I also didn't have a judgment to bring. So if I had a judgment to bring at the beginning, I'd be like, I can't wait to talk about this, and then I'd be in on the schedule somewhere to like raise my judgment. I didn't have that, which meant I was mostly listening to other people's what they've got going on, and it was great for the League National. By the time I got to the end of the Ambition Assembly, I just felt a bit tired, I think.
You're in the same tent as well, which is like convenient, but you're just like in the same corner.
I literally didn't move seats, so I just sat down for 2 hours and listened to people. And again, it's on me. I could have been getting more involved in things like that and taking more of an interest, and that probably would have got the energy up for me. Which is maybe what I need to do next time, maybe what I need to change. But I think that comes as a run-on of not spending enough time around people on Friday out of character, because then I've powered down, I'm lower energy, and then when it actually comes to the role play, it's like, oh, this is happening right now. Oh, it's passed me by. Oh, and now why don't I feel good about that? Oh, because I didn't actually speak in any of these things. So yeah, not the speediest start getting into role play at the beginning for me.
No, and in that hour, I think at first I took a little moment just to like. Just have a little rest in my tent, and like that was fine. But I think I wanted to take my camera and just try and take a few photos. For some reason I felt like, I don't know, like nervous. Something stopped me from doing that, and I think maybe I was like, oh, I don't necessarily want to see someone be seen as someone who is separate from the game. You don't
want to be seen as like a photographer who sits outside of the game.
Yeah. And like maybe I would have enjoyed the photography, but I was like, oh, maybe not. So I know that I approached a group that spoke at the Debutantes Ball, and I was like, I'm quite interested in what you're up to.
Yeah.
And that was a nice little conversation. I got a really nice pie from the Marchers.
A really nice pie.
Very good pie.
I ate a good portion of that pie that you bought, and it was a really good pie. Unsurprisingly, the Marchers are the place to go for a good pie.
But yeah, I did go and speak to that group that mentioned in the Debutantes Ball. They invited me to a meeting they were having. They're like a new group. They invited me to a meeting the next day that I didn't make it to because there was another thing, the clash. But it's fine. These things happen. But I'm, in mind
you can
with
always
them.
reconnect with them.
Exactly. If I want to in future.
Get into their shenanigans, whatever they get up to.
And then we were like straight into doing our like Liao Dream readings. With like our cards and stuff.
It was just suddenly 9 p.m, 9:30, and that's dusk. So that's when we start doing our readings. Got to do them outside this time. Because it was both probably too warm to do them in the tent and lovely to do them outside in the cool and the dark. Yeah,
we only did 2 readings.
Yeah, we only did a couple
this time. So
and with spoilers, those are the only 2 readings we did. We didn't actually do any readings on the Saturday.
Yeah, which is interesting because obviously our previous video talking about like making your offering and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that was what we had, but we kind of got more ideas as the weekend went on like how that we might adapt it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So it's the thing that we are bringing. You know, we're bringing out our readings to do for people, and we enjoy doing that.
It sets us apart from others as well, and other things did come from us doing that in the weekend. It's not that it just didn't give to our weekend.
Absolutely,
at all.
it had put our name out there from having done it historically, and we had other people later on in the event say, "Dolce and Novella, I know who you are. You do the readings," and I'm like, "How do you what?
Yeah.
Well, how do you know us?" I was like, I really like that. Thank you for saying that, basically. But
it's exciting.
So yeah, it brought a bunch of things. But one of the key lessons, the key takeaways, was that it still has to work for you, no matter what you're doing. You shouldn't feel bound to it. You shouldn't feel obligated to it. So we did a couple of readings. We enjoyed it. Yeah. And then we called it.
And then I think sometimes we end up sort of after readings, after something like that, going and walking around the camps and like trying to make more of the evening.
Well, like, what else is going on?
Yeah,
what else is going on around here?
There's a certain point where I think things just start to close off a bit, or people are just like at a pub already having their evening. So, I think we were like, let's just call it a night. We didn't get a great sleep the night before. Let's just like make sure we're good for tomorrow.
Yeah, go to bed just a tad earlier than we normally would, and literally just do that. Just go to bed, not do anything else.
Yeah. So that was our Friday.
Great call, by the way, to do that.
Yeah, I think it was, and so Friday was kind of dry. Like the readings were good, and like it was nice how they kind of developed over the weekend. Yeah,
because that matured into more role playing game for us over the course of the entire weekend, which was very
nice.
Cool.
But yeah, just like not a huge amount happening. Our evening was kind of spoken for, but we didn't like necessarily get to like engage fully in some of it.
I think there's security in our evening being spoken for. We literally have a ball, 2 meetings, and then readings, and then bed every Friday. So our Friday, as set up as it is now, we can change that if we want.
Yep, we might.
And we might. Our Friday is set up. There's no room for anything else to go on. Yeah. And there's security in that, there's safety in that, there's comfort in that, but there's also a lack of actually assessing what we want in the moment if we stick to that.
Yeah. So definitely. So shall we move on to Saturday? So Saturday, bit of a we both had quite different starts.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about yours first?
Yeah. So I didn't have a good start to my Saturday. I didn't feel very good. I effectively, I don't know quite what to call it. Sometimes I call it like a drop. I know that some people get event drop, which is after the event has finished. They go from all those dopamine highs during the weekend to the real life lows. But it wasn't event drop by definition, but it was sort of like an emotional drop, a negativity within myself for Saturday up until about noon. Because time in is only at 10, so a couple of hours basically. What I think happened was this is the result of basically a series of things not really working for me. So spending a lot of Friday without other people around, bouncing myself from pillar to post between meetings and readings and things like that Friday night. And then on Saturday morning, I tried to find someone with a hat, with an imperial title. Tried to track them down, couldn't find them, and at that point, I was like, I give up. I was like feeling very negative, and I was like, not enjoying myself in that moment. So I took myself out of the game for a bit and went to lie down in our tent to try and figure out what I was feeling, where it was coming from, what I could do about it. Just took a moment basically because I needed a moment. And you were out doing your own thing while that was happening.
I did. So obviously we would both start our day being like, we're both going to go off and find our separate people that we have our own things that we're kind of looking into. So I went to talk, there's like a particular piece of like, I guess like game that I'm focused on. It's almost like a piece of game that I want to call attention to bring into the game. And there are a few select other people in my nation that are doing or have been doing the same thing for some time.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I know this person mentioned this in the National Assembly.
Yeah.
I'm going to go seek them out. At the start of the day, hopefully they're at their own tent and it's not impossible to find them. So I went to find them. It was my first time in my Monica de Savos mask.
Yes.
Which is my my sort of journalist mask.
Yeah, your journalist alter ego.
Yeah, so I spoke to like the Oathright last event, and sort of in the middle of the event.
Yeah.
And kind of got inspired when they were like, get quotes from people, we love quotes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I can just go and ask anyone for quotes that I want in the world. This opens up for everything. I could just be like, what's your opinion on this subject?
And boy, are people willing to give them, by the way.
Yes, the right person, it's perfect. So yeah, I went to them with like that mask on, so it's the first time introducing myself in that way, and we sort of did a little walk and talk because they're a busy person, and
you were like, I've got to get the next hot scoop off of you.
kind of. I put it forward in this way to get the information, and then part of me was like, I could also put forward that I could do things with my priest hat on.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of fudged up my kind of hearth magic there, in that I was like, I could potentially also do this. Whereas I feel like, I think on reflection, I could have been like, I'm very close with a certain priest called Dulce de Salvos,
who might have
who could do this sort of priestly kind of thing to help and interact. What advice would you give?
What I understand, because again I wasn't there, but my understanding is that this was a glimmer of some game which later materializes into some very serious and some very meaty game, and you were entering into it in this sort of journalist persona, and then there was a glimmer of like actual real meaty game though, and you were like, oh god, I'm gonna lose that in the moment. So it's kind of a jumping on that. So I don't think it's a fault. It's just because you got to follow your nose when it comes to this sort of game. It's just having that a little bit of because it was your first time in an alter ego in a mask, having a little bit more experience in masks and knowing where to push and pull that role play. Yeah,
because my other mask, my main mask at the moment, is just me in priest mode basically. So scary. I'm like, it's still me, it's still Dulce, but it's me acting specifically as priest.
Yes, that priest mask is very scary, by the way. It's unnerved a few people, I will say.
It's funny. But yeah, so I kind of had this conversation, it kind of sparked some ideas, and I was like, cool, I'll come back to you later kind of thing. I'm glad that they spoke to me and things like that. So then I went to a particular book club, like a smart book club, and that was very fun. I ended up very like inspired. I think you were actually going to go along to this as well, but you were kind of like, because I dropped, I didn't go along to it, and it's one of those things. It's a shame because now having the post-event energy of like, how do I keep this dopamine train running forever? Of course I would love to go to a book club and talk about the smut and things like that. But in the moment I was like, I can't do this. I just couldn't do it. So I took some time out rather than pushing myself. But you went, and it sounded like a lot of fun. Yeah, and like one thing I will mention is like, because the route would have been easier just to go to the book club. I was like, I will just see you there if you arrive, and I just kind of noted that you didn't arrive. But I was like, I don't need to overly.
We don't move as two. Yeah. We move as one each, and occasionally those ones are together. Yeah,
and I think I wanted to just like be like, it's okay for me to be here and for you not to be.
And I actually really liked that because I was intentionally taking a moment alone. If you had at that moment come and interrupted, although it is also
like tried to save you,
tried to save me in that moment, I would have been like, no, you just need some time to like. Feel my feelings basically, so that worked really well, that we are our own people.
And like I think the meeting itself, I think it inspired me and I want to go towards some like creative pursuits, I think, in the game, because I've been a writer in me outside of the game, in life,
in real life.
Wow. And I've not brought that into the game yet. The closest I've got is journalism, which is not the kind of writing that I'm used to.
No.
So it's an interesting kind of space to hang out in. But though I will mention, I had like just a really embarrassing moment when I left the meeting where like
Oh no.
because I like walked away. One thing I should note is I have it's pretty damn cool. I like made like a boiled leather box for our like cards,
our like
dream
cards, yeah.
And the weather, the heat, I think actually it like softened it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened is like I walked away, and I think
the string slipped out of the thing.
the string slipped out. So basically, it came like undone and like fell. My cards fell out, and I didn't quite realize. And I was like, oh, did something, like, I felt something. I just looked down, and then I just like turned to go and pick them up, and then like the table at which all the people were sat at the meeting I just left, one person said, and their voice just carried enough to be like, their cards just fell on the floor, and I was like,
the shame.
Just like the literal split second, I turned around and I was like, oh, that's me they're talking about. Because I was like, I think there was that tiny moment where I did see them on the floor, and I'm like, it's okay, just go pick up the card calmly, and it's just like, okay, it was announced the entire table.
My cards fell on the floor.
No problem with that person. They're just like speaking their mind in that moment.
Yeah.
But I was just like, oh my god. Feeling so silly.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that I went back to the tent, and we had like a little like
Heart to
heart. And I got to like tell you about my morning and things like that and stuff that I was excited about, and you told me about yours and like the struggle.
I think at that point, because I could talk to you about it, and because I had time to process what I was feeling, I think at that point I had identified that it was the lack of people that I actually spoke to that was affecting me. I was like, I've come here to socialise, and ever since at that point, and we were at midday on Saturday, I was feeling like I hadn't really talked to anyone since Thursday evening, you know? Because all of Friday passes out of character, we're not speaking to anyone else.
Not like a proper RP moment.
No, not a proper RP moment or a proper social moment. Just, you know, same in Friday, in between meetings and then readings, it's not really happening. And then, so I was like, I need to go to things and talk to people now. Like, I was like, that, because previously, obviously there was that book club that I could have went to. I was like, I haven't processed how I'm feeling, I haven't talked to anyone about it, I cannot go to it yet, I do not feel right. Then once we'd had that heart and talked about it, I was like, let's go to all these things.
And like I also had my like this like idea for a judgment now that I could write out from the conversation in the morning. And so I was like, okay, let's chill, let's sit out on the table outside the front of the tent on the plaza and just like sit and write out. Like, we don't have to be like actively engaging. We can be like sat in the cool breeze in the public
in
and
our
that
nation.
kind of things, and just so I like sat and like wrote out this judgment idea and trying to like workshopped it a little bit. And then we had a virtue salon to go to.
Yes.
Which was really nice.
Yeah, so a couple of people we know run a salon to discuss virtues, basically.
And sort of like priestly duties in the way of like how we speak to people, encourage people and things like that. So that there's things developing there, things inspired from our readings as well, and that's a really nice space. Yeah,
it's a really cool like run-on roleplay thing where the readings that we've given get us involved in roleplay in that sense, because there were people at the Virtue Salon that we've done readings for that are then doing their roleplay things, not because of the readings we've done, because it comes from them, but our readings have been part of their story. Like
reignited something or helps get them towards a certain aim.
And that feels fantastic, to be honest, to be involved in other people's stories in such a way, and then to kind of stay in touch with them and things like that.
We were also showing that we are now featured in a book on loud dreaming.
Oh yes, we were.
Which is super cool in the library, and I'm like, our names in the library are famous.
Yes, we talked about a few other things as well. We talked about sodalities, which is exciting.
I will say you were able to feel like you could be a bit more vulnerable as well in this meeting.
Yeah, I did. In this thing, because we, meeting with these people, and it's their first question is, what have you been up to? How are you doing? And I was like, hey, not so good. I've been struggling. And then I was like, anyway, what are you guys? It's fine to be like struggling for a bit, and to like talk about it and express that. And they didn't do anything to help as it were. They weren't like, okay, let's fix that problem then. That would have probably been too much, to be honest. They were just like, okay, and then we continue talking about stuff.
The fact that you can air that is really good.
It feels really good. So then that conversation sort of began to evolve beyond the Virtue Salon, because they started to talk about your judgment that you'd got.
Yeah, I mentioned my judgment. I got advice on it.
Yeah, because there were other priests there, so...
Yeah, someone was walking past and they were like, hey, can you help with this thing? And so... they read my judgment, gave me some advice on it. After that meeting, sort of between things, we decided to go and speak to another person that was mentioned to us that we should speak to about the judgment. Yeah,
I'll say now the ball's rolling. Because we sort of started with that judgment. We talked to the people we know about it. We've been told who the experts are on that area of the game, and now you're hunting them down.
Yeah, I will say as well, if you've been watching to this point and being like, you just said it was the best one yet, and it doesn't seem like that much has happened.
It doesn't seem too great right now.
It was a slow starter, and that's fine as well. And I think again we'll just keep learning as well. But we went to speak to another person. They suggested that it would be great if we could almost do a double judgment and put my judgment in a different assembly.
It was interesting because the idea was that you had your judgment and you were preaching prosperity. And it was very relevant to raise your judgment in the prosperity assembly. But it also involves league national issues, and the person said, why not? Have you considered raising it in the league assembly? And then I said, because I said let's do both.
Nice.
I was like, actually, I've been meaning to offer, I will raise a duplicate of your judgment in the National Assembly and you can stick to a Virtue Assembly.
Sounds great.
And it is duplicated across all the people who might be interested in this part of game.
Yeah.
And they said it was a good idea, and you said it was a good idea. And we did that idea.
And we did it. The only thing is I tried to seek out the person I spoke to in the morning who was like, come back, speak to me. And I didn't find them at that point. And I was like, I think I've just got to put the judgment down.
You were trying to check and double check with everyone relevant. But you just had to get it in, because at that point we're well past noon on Saturday. So you got to get the judgment in, or else you're gonna unless you
don't want to put a judgment in just for the Sunday sort of slot. So I wanted to expose it to more people, and so I was like, okay, let's just go do that, and we did. And then it was the Love Symposium.
Just before the Love Symposium, actually, while we were in Synod, we did peruse the votes. We did look at everything.
We took down our notes.
We did our priestly duties, and we looked at everything that was up, took down our notes, looked at how we were going to judge, but then the queue was out of this world, and we had a Love Symposium to get to.
We did. So we didn't vote then, but we sort of had our notes.
We voted later,
and then went to the Love Symposium, which last time it was such a great roleplay experience. It was smaller, I think, and it was more relaxed. I think this time there wasn't as much of a chance for it wasn't every single person gets to talk, so it was a bit bigger. I still think I was I was still at that beginning stage of coming out of the drop, so I didn't feel super comfortable talking and things like that. But I know at the last Love Symposium I kind of felt similarly, and the Love Symposium got me out of that, which was nice. This one didn't. You're right, it felt more structured. It felt more there were specific people with their expertises talking about love in different nations, and it was left to them to do the talking. Now it's not anyone can do anything. You can stand up and be like, I demand an answer to this question. You can do whatever you want, really. But the reality of it was that the Love Symposium was okay this time, not as good as last time. Still going to go to the next one when it happens, I think. Yes.
but it was a nice discussion about love between nations.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I had already learned, but now I've learned even a bit more about what love is in League versus Dawn.
Yeah, I got to define things a little bit for myself as well, which was cool. I think I'm trying to think of the differences between like this time and last time, and I think a big thing was like the last time it was like just what is love, and so there was no wrong answer.
No.
There was an answer someone could disagree with, but when it's what the nations are,
because the first symposium we went to, the dominant question was what is love, and there was like we began by going around people and just asking them what love is, and it's very loose form, it's very role play, it's character specific, so you can say whatever you want in answer to the question. You're not going to give a wrong answer, but when the question was I'm not quite sure what the question was, but it's something along the lines of what is the differences in love between Dawn and the League. I'm like, it's very factual. I don't know if I have anything to add factually to this symposium above and beyond what other people are adding, because they seem to know more about it than me.
So it was definitely a different vibe this time, but then after that we went to go for like a tea, coffee, went to a cafe,
coffee and cake.
We went to Lumi's
in Wintermark.
Wintermark, first time I've been there. Was nice.
It was nice. Very nice.
And we spoke with someone who we'd previously given a dream to, the Owl Dream to,
a previous client,
and we were sort of talking with them on reflection because we kind of missed it at the end of the last summer.
Because what we wanted to do, what we always love to do with our clients, is we say go away and have your Owl Dream. Tell us about it in the morning. Come back, because it's more role play.
Have like a debrief. Have like a talk. Have gives you time to like mull about it, think about it, and then
decide how your character feels about it, and then go forward with it. We didn't catch them at the end of last event, so we caught them now.
And so that was really. That was a really nice coffee, and it was really like good to hear that.
It was a nice coffee as well. Although a child did recommend that Lumi's is good for cold drinks as well. So next time I'm at Lumi's, I'll be getting a cold drink.
Yeah, maybe. But it was.
Sorry.
So yeah, it was it was very nice, but it was really good conversation. At first, we were like in our sort of priestly role, sort of receiving in that way. But like across the time, we did like also. It became more and more relaxed because we're like, okay, we've kind of debriefed on that, and now we can talk about this. And then I actually thought of like a potential opportunity for this person, where we could almost like give something to one another.
Like a mutual exchange.
As a response to that, and there was just like a lovely mix of like vulnerability and fun, and then also role play because priestly stuff and learning more about each other's characters more deeply. 100%. In role play.
And I think what ended up coming out of that, besides the really good role play and things that came out of that, because I kind of sat in that conversation and I started to ask questions about this person sort of changed where they were preaching. They'd changed. No, they'd moved. Their character had moved, which meant that they, as a priest, had changed where their audience. And I was like, what was that like? In the full knowledge that didn't happen at Anvil, that happened above the abstraction layer. But I'm like, well, how was that? And they were just like, bam, it was like this. And I was like, oh, well, role playing now. This is fantastic. But then it led to like something like you say, some other opportunities. Some potentially things we might be doing if we get organised in time at the next event.
It's exciting.
It was very exciting, and again, it comes from the stuff we did, with stuff we brought to put ourselves out there. It also comes from like just talking to people, being interested in people and seeing what they're up to.
Also, if you see us looking down here. Here, because it's because we have our timeline written here, and the next thing on the timeline is just orc fried rice.
Yes.
Which is there is an orc that does egg fried rice.
Yes, you're telling me a fried orc fried this egg fried rice.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
And it was really nice. Just like relaxed role play, being in the orc camp. Really
go eat the egg fried rice in the orc camp if you can. It's amazing. It's one of the best orc fried rices, egg fried rices I've ever had.
Best meal I had all weekend as well.
I would agree with that. Like you say, like the queue, the atmosphere, the vibe in the orc camp was great. For some reason, instead of everyone queuing up for food, like typical.
Yeah.
Like at any other place, you'd be queuing up for food. Instead, everyone formed a small semicircle and watched an orc fry rice for a bit. And the orc, they were engaging with the audience very well, and it was very, very popular. It was great. It was a great experience. 10 out of 10. Would have an orc fry my rice again.
Yep. Also, I would note, sort of noted this as we kind of were in it, but English people queue, you know? British people. We queue.
Yeah.
We ain't British when we're in the game.
No. We're imperial citizens. Yeah. Imperial citizens stand in semicircles.
We do what we want. There's no rules.
And then the orc that's frying the rice looks up and is like, who's next?
Which one is
And then we
next?
do like a line of pointing where it's like, you were here before me, and then they're like, well, they were here before us. And
these two and that person there. Yeah.
We have to like marry it up and stuff like that.
That was fine.
Great. Fantastic meal.
Yeah, very nice. And then
Fantastic atmosphere.
Afterwards, there was like this play that we had to go and speak to someone about before we could even go to the play.
We had gained, I mean, everyone had been given this information, but we gained the information that there was a secret play, invitation only, and you had to go out of your way to get an invitation.
And so we kind of like, last minute, I saw this person to talk to, and I was like, oh, let's just go and try.
Yes.
You know? And so went to this person, and they were like, you'll have to pay extra. So we paid extra, and they were like, we'll get you in. It's gonna have to kind of sneak you in a little bit, but we'll see. So that was the first time that night that we paid extra to sneak into a piece of entertainment.
And it was not the last time.
Yeah. So
we were being very Sarvos by being like, yeah, I'll pay extra to get into this. It sounds interesting.
Yeah. And then we bumped into, I'm sure you won't mind being named, bumped into Shawnee.
Yeah.
At the play, so we just went, oh no, you sit next to you.
Yeah.
The play was very interesting. I believe there was an NPC at the game.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure.
I have no idea. There was curses everywhere in this play.
It was wild.
But it was also like a guarded play.
Yeah.
So you absolutely could not get in unless you had a ticket.
Yeah.
There was
very meta.
There was also there was almost a sword fight at the end of a real life sword fight at the end of the play. It was all kicking off.
Yes.
It was great. It was fun. It felt like we were truly at like a secret event. That only gets spoken about, and it's like, how did you get into that? So
some real like laugh out loud moments.
It was really, really good.
And I'm so grateful for Shawnee doing this, but like afterwards, like Shawnee was kind of like, what are you guys up to?
Yeah.
Like, I think they'd spent their evening doing their weekend, getting loads done, super, super busy, which is kind of what we have seen of Shawnee so far.
Yeah.
And then they were just like, kind of done my stuff now. What are you guys up to?
What are you guys up to?
And so I knew that there was eel milking on.
Yeah, and I tried to get tickets to eel milking.
Yeah.
And failed because it was sold out because it's so popular.
Yeah.
So of course, us and Shawnee.
Yeah.
Just paid more to get in.
Just paid more to get in afterwards. And it was so worth it. It was really good fun. And yes.
It was... I definitely don't want to talk about specifics when it comes to eel milking.
Yes.
Which I will say with a stressor every time. Because I don't want to spoil it in any way. I will say there is nothing like eel milking on the field at Anvil. It is worth any ticket price, truly. Yeah. And you'll need to go to see this eel get milked, basically.
Yeah, go. And also, I will just say, there was basically my assumption is that some of those people are professional actors or something like that outside of the game, because the level,
the production quality
it was really
of this
good.
eel milking was very impressive.
And not even production, it's not like there was huge displays or loads of money pumped into it, but they were let's put the effort in where it's needed, and then the rest was just them just being really good. Yeah, they were just
professionals, very good at what they did through and through.
Yeah, and then we went kind of back. It was we were having so much fun, really. It was
we
really
were
good.
kind of knocking around.
Yeah.
All three of us were like knocking around. It was great.
And then we went to watch some people that we knew doing a kind of special announcement in Senate.
Yes.
Of something that they'd like achieved that was like hard.
It was like a year-long goal of theirs. They'd achieved it, and they got to announce it in Senate.
So it was really nice to just sort of spontaneously also go and see that and be part of that moment.
One thing we roused rabble, and we were very happy for them when they made the announcement and things like that. One thing I very quickly realised is I don't think I'm interested in Senate. I was like, I love that they get to announce their thing and it's very public and it's a success for them, but seeing sort of what Senate actually is as well, I was like, not for me.
Yeah.
It felt a bit too dry for me, or a bit too serious, or a bit too, I don't know. I think there's so many facts you have to know as well, and I was just like, I'm good out here. Actually, I'm very happy, like knocking around and making my own fun. There will be plenty of people who are interested in that sort of gameplay, and that is the place for it. And like, what might come to, people talk deep into the night about that sort of thing. Yeah,
we sort of like saw the progression of Senate throughout the night of like that first bit, and then much later, us being out and being like, God, Senate's still going on. And then even later than that, we sort of bumped into some people queuing to get into this place in Highgard. Yeah. And we were like, what is this place? And they were like, oh, it's where all the senators go afterwards so they can keep going. And I was like, gosh, that really is like their whole thing.
That's like their whole thing, but like more power to them.
Yeah.
But it was cool to go by Senate, get like a little bit of a scrap of it, and celebrate a friend's success there.
And then we went and sat down for readings.
Because we do it every day when it gets to dusk.
And it didn't happen. No one came along. We spoke to some like sellers that came along.
But to some people who were interested, but they were interested in the concept, but they didn't want to have a reading.
Like no one bit. And like, I think there was a point where I was like, let's just stop here.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to stick around for something that's not paying back to us. So let's just go and have a walkabout, have some fun. Yeah, and that was more intentional, I think, than it has been before.
I think so as well. We don't owe anyone. Even though it's the thing we're bringing to Anvil and we said we're going to bring it, we don't owe it to anyone, not ourselves, not other people, to keep doing it if we're not finding it fun.
Yeah.
And I think we were very happy to sit there for the first however long we sat there for, to see if anyone came along. When it kind of didn't materialise into anything, we were like, let's do something else.
Yeah.
And we were so buoyed up and happy that we could carry on doing that. That was absolutely fine.
Yeah, it was nice.
So we packed up and went for an intentional wander, not just a wander aimlessly trying to make the night go on, but a genuine like walk around.
See what's around. If nothing catches our attention, we can just go.
Because it was still early enough that people were up and doing stuff.
Yeah, so we actually saw a part of dawn. This part of dawn I've never seen before. When like the Glory Square's like actually active, and they were having some kind of like hunk contest. So like basically they were just dueling, and it was good fun. And yeah, it was nice to see Dawn so alive in that way.
Yeah, very much so.
Because I think for some reason, I've mainly gone into Dawn, and like there's not much going on in the Glory Square. Yeah. So it's kind of just everyone doing their own things in their own tents.
I was going to say, the only time you ever go to Dawn, someone is dead.
Well, that was definitely the first time we were like laid out in the Glory Square, and we were like, I remember someone like running past us screaming, and we were like, what happened?
Serious business.
We just went, that was the wrong time. But this was like actually seeing it fully like alive. Yeah. And it was really nice actually just to kind of see that. Oh, someone lost their glasses and you went to save the day with
my
your torch.
Super bright torch.
But
yeah, I feel that. I think the amount of times I put my glasses down, I lose them.
Yeah.
Because just like I cannot see without them.
I can't imagine like dueling and just being like, they're gone. But yeah.
But to use a Dawnish term, it was very glorious in the Glory Square. Putting on a show. I thought it was very good.
It was pretty fun, and yeah, that was nice to just like be spectator to. And we went wandering a bit more, got lost a bit more.
We got lost and found an area of Anvil
but Brass Coast
didn't know existed, which was strange. It's very strange, actually.
The Brass Coast is like a really strange shape, and while I feel like I know the way through it, I was like, oh, there's actually like this bit. If you enter this little bit, it opens up to more spaces.
But then it was like a dead end as well, and we were where are we? Like in the context of like everything else in the world, it's like, where are we again?
Yeah.
But that was cool to find that.
It was cool.
And we found that High Guard Senate thing as well. And then we were like, yeah, that's it, we're good.
Cool, we're good.
Let's go to bed.
So yeah, I feel like that was Saturday, and we'll head on to Sunday.
On to Sunday. Sunday.
The meat and bones of our weekend, really.
So
like the most like exciting day of the weekend.
By far.
Yeah.
And by far the best Sunday we've ever had.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
So our typical experience of Sunday is that people are kind of done. They're kind of wrapping up.
Yeah.
They might do fighting and then they're going.
And like the weather's been so bad in the past couple where like
yeah, I think that's where it comes from. The weather's been really bad, so people just try to pack up, try to strike camp as soon as possible. That can lead to things feeling like there's nothing happening on Sunday after a certain hour. But not for us, not this Sunday. We squeezed every drop of lifeblood out of the event on Sunday. I think we did more on Sunday than we did all the other days combined.
Yeah. And so we finally went and voted at Synod.
Yeah, we cashed in our votes because we hadn't yet.
When they like take the civil servant, when they were like, "This is your first time voting," I was like, "Sorry."
And then you have to give like a big list of numbers. Then you give a number, and they're like, "That one's already closed," and it's like, "Okay."
All right. I can't remember what it was anyway. So we went to vote first thing, and then on the way back to our tent, we bumped into the people that I originally spoke to about that bit of game, about the judgment, about things like that.
So the bit where you were in your alter ego as a journalist, and then you couldn't find that person again, we bumped into them. Just like no mask, just like as me, as Dolce, and I think there was a little bit of confusion there. Because I think they genuinely didn't recognise you, or they were role playing it very well because of Hearth magic.
It's a bit of that's completely my fault of like not keeping the consistency there. But so we kind of hopped into like sort of first spark.
Yeah,
so
we're having to see Shawnee again then.
Yeah, we're having to see Shawnee, so it's like, come sit over here.
So got to sit in the shade, talk about that incredibly meaty piece of game.
So good. We really like laid out the like big plans for like future.
Yeah, plot basically. It's sort of
super
like
tasty.
And like so excited to be involved in that. I think I reflected on it after the event with you as we were driving back, and I said I felt almost like, I don't know, collegiate in a way.
Yeah.
It felt like in a very priestly or scholarly or some other manner, we were all pulling together on an idea. All these different people from these different places, we're pulling together to make this idea, to make this piece of plot happen.
Yeah, it was great.
And it felt fantastic.
Yeah, and we learned a bit more about this particular part of the game, and I was like, ooh, maybe there's some kind of connection there that I might draw between them and like the Imperial Orcs or something like that. And I was like, maybe I need to go and talk to the, like, it was just like a little like spark of an idea there. And so also there was someone who like walked past them, they said they wanted to like come over to League from Dawn maybe the next time. It was their first time at Andor. Took that information to pass it on, so just helping the first spark do their thing.
I really want to like drill into basically this whole meeting that we had here, right? Without going into too many specifics, because all of a sudden we were like members of the League community, really. Because what happened was we'd just done our voting, right? We walk up the centre of the League Plaza. Oh, we bump into a couple of people.
Like, I've been meaning to speak
to you. We pull them to one side. Oh, look, a friend is also, Shawnee, a good friend is also there. And we all sit in the shade at this camp and we chat about this kind of meaty game. And then the people who own that tent come back and we're talking to them about what they've been doing. And then the egregore comes over as well at some point. And starts chilling with us. And sort of like there's this hive of activity, and then because part of what you've been talking about might be linked to the Imperial Orcs. And
those like first people like left at the some
so
point, and, like,
it starts to become this sort of like ebb and flow of Leaguish community. Then one of the Apulian Orcs comes over, who's also a League, of course, a League member.
And then suddenly we find ourselves on this little mission of like just a little idea that I had. We're going to the Imperial Orcs
On an expedition.
With Shawnee, this Apulian Orc we just met, and the Egregore.
The League Egregore, the captain. We're all off together.
So we go to the Orc camp to try and find people. We speak momentarily to the Orc Egregore. Shawnee tries to encourage them to have a fight
The two Egregores,
for no reason.
At this point, we're sort of with Shawnee. We're entering like super like goofball, super like friendly mode,
Silly
and we're like
shenanigans.
it's shenanigans. That's it. We're like on to any opportunity for shenanigans. We're all there for it, which will become relevant shortly.
Yes.
As well.
So I went to the Orc camp and I was like, okay, how do I find someone who's relevant on this subject? Which was like a priestly subject. And ended up being pointed to someone who like just so happened to be like Cardinal for Courage.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll take it.
Who was the perfect
person for it. Like I was like asking them, I put forward this like, almost like hypothetical to them, this like kind of theory question, and they really gave me so much stuff of value.
Yeah.
And it was really, really perfect to really build on what was talked about before.
Yeah.
Just great to have that interaction.
There was good sort of, again, contribution to like that the meaty plot area.
Yeah.
But there was also like fantastic role play from them, the passion, the anger. I was like, I can feel how angry you are.
Yeah.
Like I can feel it. It's raising my heart rate. It's making my blood pump. It's making me scared, and I love it. Yeah.
And it was challenging as well.
Very
in
much
the
so.
Way of like challenging like us as humans and things like
preconceived
that.
notions and things like that. Yeah.
Just really, really, really good role play, and just very happy to have like had that interaction and just followed my nose on that rather than like holding back from it.
Yes.
So we go to return to the League.
Yes.
And we spot the Egregore on the way. We kind of lost him at some point.
Yeah.
I spot him on the way, and we kind of realised that he's cursed at some point.
At some point or another, we realised that the Egregore has wandered into the Orc camp.
Yeah.
Lost us for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And has been cursed.
To be some kind of gambly sort of...
A virtuous gambler,
yes.
I believe. Yeah.
And that was very funny. We actually... I realised I don't know how people get uncursed. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
We've
heard of curses, but
Yeah.
it's like... How do we stop that?
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't think I've had the experience.
I think what ended up happening as well was like theoretically not the worst possible thing, but we sort of gently guided him towards a casino.
Well, kind of incidentally.
Yeah, incidentally, we were looking for help. We were like,
Yeah.
how do we get the Egregore uncursed? All he wants to do is gamble. And the response was, well, we're a casino. And it was like, no, we don't want that. We want to take the curse away.
That was very funny. We also had like, just with Shawnee, like a funny bit of like, oh, I realise what this is and you're going to hate it. Just a funny bit of like RP.
Yeah.
About just like, literally just about like toilets. How like, something about how like, Salvos has the only like actual plumbing in the Empire.
Salvos is
something like that.
League is the only place that has plumbing, basically.
Yes, but we were like, that was a little fun bit of roleplay, and then I've just realised it was small talk.
Not small talk. No.
Just like as our characters.
The most pointless by definition method of all talk. But it was. I think you're right. Small talk in character. It's hard to come across because people are talking about big things or people are talking about small things, but they're very rarely talking about nothing.
Yeah.
And we were just riffing. We were just role playing. We were just riffing, talking about nothing.
Yeah.
It felt fantastic.
It was
very funny as well.
It was very funny, and there was a point where there was a cursed tombola. You'd spotted it.
Yeah. I can sniff out a tombola a mile away. I love a good tombola.
And I spotted someone who I'd had like only a momentary conversation with earlier, or just like momentarily, like very peripherally aware of this person, but they had a lot of knowledge on a particular subject, which I think me with my like Oathright kind of hat on was interested in. So I was like, I'm going to follow that actually. I'm just going to go and see if that person can give me some information.
And I was like, I'm not interested in journalism. However, I am thrilled by the notion of a tombola, cursed or no.
So you went and toddled off.
So Shawnee and I toddled off to the cursed tombola.
And it was worthwhile having that conversation. But yeah, when I returned to everyone, it seemed like everyone was cursed from this tombola. the Apulian orc like walked up to us, and I think we figured out he was. You figured out.
Yeah, I remember. So we knew that basically everyone who had interacted with the tombola was cursed in some way.
Yeah.
And we, it was very cool, by the way. Thank you, PD, for putting on a cursed tombola.
Yeah.
It was just fun and cool. And how do you make that thick water? I would like to make more of it. It was very cool to the touch. Anyway, we were walking down again, just on the League Plaza, talking about the cursed tombola, talking about your scoop.
Yeah.
And the Apulian orc walks past us again and is miserable.
I would say, I just thought very reminiscent of, I think it's Marvin from The Hitchhiker's Guide, like the sad robot from Hitchhiker's Guide.
He's gripped by ennui through and through. He's like, everything
What's
passes.
the point in it?
Nothing is permanent. Everything passes.
Yeah.
And there were a few mystified looks because this Apulian orc had said some very sus things earlier in the day. Because Apulians are very Machiavellian and they pull a lot of strings.
Yeah.
So they'd made some suggestions about what to do with certain other people that sounded kind of sus. So it was like, what is this guy talking about? What's this Apulian orc talking about? And then I was like, have you been to the cursed tombola? And he was like, yeah. But even the tombola's gone now. Even the clouds are going. And then just lay down on the floor and just like, what's the point?
Yeah, it was very funny. And then I was like, I still don't know how people... no, actually, no, incorrect. Because there was a point where I actually asked someone how people get, like, uncursed.
Yeah.
And it was, like, through an exorcism.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm a priest. I can do that.
Yes.
Oh, bugger. Like, but I hadn't, like, figured out how I do exorcisms yet, because I haven't followed that.
Haven't actually done one, yeah.
So someone the person who told me about it walks over, does a big exorcism. It's a very cool fixes exorcism. The problem, very like dramatic one, very fun. First exorcism we saw that day.
Yeah, not the last.
And and then
uncurses them. They get up and they're like, "Thank you."
Yeah, and then we just end up kind of like hanging out with people. The egregore comes back around. You start gambling.
The egregore is still not uncursed.
No one uncursed.
We never. I don't know if the egregore.
I think people were like, "You can stay cursed," and so you brought out one of our games and started gambling.
Yeah, I win a bit of money
and
taking advantage of all these cursed people who want to gamble.
Just sort of chatting with people at the tent and things like that. It was good fun. There was actually you went to go for a coffee.
Well, I went to get a drink. And
there we
places had started to run out of water, like there was no tomorrow, because it was a very hot event.
Yes.
So I went to get some iced coffees instead. So I was absent for this portion of the conversation.
Yes, but I witnessed quite an intense little debate between, like, basically, Senator comes over, talks to priest, and is like, "Are you trying to get in my way?" basically, and it was like. And this subject, I actually had like a little bit of potential information, background information, kind of, from the person I spoke to earlier when you were doing the first tombola, and I was like, I don't know whether I should put this piece of information in. I don't know if maybe I regret not adding that, but it felt like there was a lot of stuff going into the mix, and I didn't want to like throw even more spanners in the works with this like intense conversation.
Yeah.
But I can follow that anyway, because I might be writing an article on it. But then the egregore comes over, because you left and stopped the gambling for a bit.
You ran out of money, I think, so it probably stopped your gambling.
They were like, we're about to induct the first Imperial Orc to the League. Yeah. So it's the first Imperial Orc to ever leave the Imperial Orcs and just come to the League. Yeah. And it happens to be got from the Oathright. Founder of the Oathright, yeah. And so we got actually to be, you came along in part during it.
So I got my iced coffees. I got us iced coffees. I came back, all my friends are gone. Everyone's disappeared, and there is a big gathering in the centre of the League encampment. And I'm like, well, they're probably all there then. So I like shimmy my way in, and someone is kind of whispering like, well, you're witnessing history. This is the first Imperial Orc to ever be inducted into the League. Yeah.
It was very cool to be a witness to, and it was super nice. Also, I feel like they mentioned a mask, and it might have been my mask because it had the Oathright on it, and I was like, that's super cool. But after this,
yeah. Because now we're entering into the period of time where I'm like, and that could have been the end of Sunday.
It could have.
Anyway,
Shawnee was like, I've got a bright idea. Why don't we try and get more orcs into the league? And then was like, actually, no. What about like more Navarre into the league?
Yeah, they were like, why stop at getting orcs into the league? Let's go to the Navarre.
Yeah.
Let's tell them how shit they are and tell them why they should come to the league.
And so I will state, I did have a different idea than that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, let's spot like a fashionable Navarre and then almost like kind of like pressure them into coming to the league.
You're like, you look great, you should be in the league.
Exactly.
But this is the mentality of us all being like, basically goofballs, high on life, like really enjoying our time. We were just like, yeah, let's do it. Let's fuck that up.
So it turns out Shawnee was cursed, and sort of directs us by like another tent to invite more people to help out with this. They swiftly identified that they are cursed, and that we're just.
And that we're just enabling a cursed person.
We were just like, it could be more fun, it could be more roleplay.
Could be more fun.
It was just like anything could happen at this point.
Anything could happen, why not?
And we witnessed one more exorcism, and it was very glorious on both sides, and that was great.
There were notes hit in the exorcism that I didn't think I'd ever hear again. So,
but after that, we got to be witness to a moment that really kind of wrapped things up. On like a kind of like, I guess like personal level for us to be witness to it. Someone had a testimony put on their soul. We got invited to a sect, which was super exciting.
Yeah, so these two things are like two separate things that I want to like
this side by side.
Give each, so like the testimony on soul, it's kind of like the culmination of part of someone's story that we've been sort of a side of their story in a way.
Contributing in a sort of like
being kept up to date with and stuff. So that was beautiful to see that kind of arc out into a testimony.
Yeah.
And then we were invited to a religious sect. S-E-C-T.
Yes. And that was it's really nice.
It was really nice
to have like had that experience, to see that.
Felt very warm. And nice.
And I think because I had that experience with the Cardinal of Courage earlier, I was like, I want to go back and update those people because they don't know about.
I was just about to say, getting invited to a sect and witnessing a testimony on the soul, that could have been the end of the weekend.
It could have been the end of the weekend.
Anyway,
it wasn't. We went to talk to these people that we had been speaking to a bunch because
about that meaty game.
Yeah, and I like added on my little bit of extra stuff, and we kind of kept discussing more. It turned out they recognised us as Dolce and Novella from like dream readings. We were like, oh my god!
Like, they were like, oh, we now have tied all the dots together, and we know who you are. And we were like, oh my god, we know you know who we are. We know who you are.
I realised the fudge up that I made when it came to like my masks and personas and stuff. Because they were like, oh, we did meet someone else earlier, but you can kind of do this thing now. It doesn't really matter, they're not really around.
And you were the someone else.
And I was like, oh no! I was like, it was like, part of me was like thoroughly entertained at the mishap, but I was also like, oh,
you literally were someone else because you were wearing a mask and you kind of like got your own wires crossed.
I did. So I think I need to like think about more in future how I'm going to talk about my different parts of myself.
I think it's very challenging because I'm like, how do you separate parts? Especially, I imagine it's very hard because you came up against this thing where you are very interested in this thing.
Yeah.
I don't really want to fritter it away on like this other persona, or I want the other persona to engage with it. So you've got to be very.
Yeah, I think deciding my route on how I'm going to deal with something is probably good. But I also have been thinking myself of like, I do need to be like, I am very close with someone called Dolce that would.
That's probably a good out.
And that sort of, trying to like make sure my language is like locked in when it comes to that kind of thing. Something to kind of give at least a nod to that, like I'm very close with this person who could help you out.
So we had to talk about that. We basically set up some plans. We're going to be doing some IC correspondence back and forth about stuff, progressing that area of the game. Yeah.
I also had this bit of like kind of an idea about how with our dream ceremonies and stuff that maybe we just need to start doing them by appointment.
By appointment only, yeah.
Just because and that could even just be like people making appointments with us during the day, but just so we know exactly how much time we're giving to it, and so we're not over like subscribing our time or under subscribing our time.
Exactly. We're not spending time seeing no one, but we're not spending too much time seeing people. So that is a lesson in changing the way you do things and making it work for you, because you're going to change as a person, your character's going to change as a person. Just constantly revisiting those givens, and they can be changed. Everything can be changed and altered. And remembering that thing that you present to people, that like part of your offering, like I think it's probably best if it develops and changes and or else
turns into something else.
I always think about, if I, instead of doing the dream readings with you, I always think about if I had brought like a product or a shop or something, you know, if I was running like a shop in League, I always think that I would get bored of it after a couple of seasons. It would probably be thrilling for the first couple of things to be like making a bunch of money and selling on things, but the notion that I would do that like every time, I'd be like, oh, I don't think I'd be into that. Which doesn't mean that I'm not into potentially doing something like that. It means I'm not. It means it needs to change with me.
Yeah, or that it needs to become like a finite part of things, and then like other things have to also come in to make your game like You're bringing this thing because it's fun, and your definition of fun is allowed to change. Yes, definitely.
And now you'd think that'd be the end of the weekend. Yeah. But there's still more stuff.
Yeah, just like I didn't realise how close all of this was right to the end of time in. But you went to go and check up on a raffle that you'd entered.
Yeah, I'd lost the raffle, unfortunately.
However, there was a Kikabeo there who just kind of like offered like her services and said that they could give a massage. And actually, we'd been wanting to seek a massage like all weekend.
It was like one of my first things on my to-do list. I was like, I must get a massage this season, this summit, and then didn't, and then the opportunity just sprung up. Got a massage.
Yeah, and we both did, and we both like just like deflated. It was very nice,
and I think it opened our eyes to Kikabeos. Truly,
because we've been around Kikabeos, talking to Kikabeos.
It's almost like
we've been called Kikabeos. The way we do things.
It's almost like silly because. You know, you asked me about Kikabeos, and I'm like, yes, absolutely. Go engage with a Kikabeo, see what services they provide, see if anything interests you. Yeah. And then I did that, and I was like, wow, this is... There's so much opportunity here, and it's got me thinking about ways that I might speak to some Kikabeos that I already know to actually get some kind of like role play and services and things like that out that will actually like help me and help my character. And I'm like, a whole nother section of the game just opened up.
And even kind of help you like potentially like out of character in a way of like you can like set things in place in character that can like just ways. I won't maybe we'll detail it next time when I've actually done it. But yeah, just opening a whole area of the game that I thought was already open to me. Yeah. But then the act of actually doing it made me realise the potential. So I'll need to get on that. It's on our big list of things to organise and write about for next event. Because I feel I've literally like spoken to Kikabeos. I've been like, I want to write an article and like clarify things for people. But I think I actually do need to go and like go through that process of like being like, what kind of things do you offer, and like learn on that like deeper level of experience. Because I think what I was thinking is like, I need to know what I want before I go to them, and I'm like,
I don't think that's the case at all. I think that Kikabeos are experienced patrons of all the services that they offer, and they'll be able to talk about the ways that they can help you. And I think the opportunity is massive there.
I just want to pick up on something you said, that you were like experienced patrons of, and in my head I put like role play.
Yeah, experienced patrons of role play,
because they are like I can often do these kinds of things, you know. But if you have ideas, I'm open to discussing, yes or no, whatever.
I don't think being a Kikabeo is easy at all. You know, no. I think it's really hard to have a set of services, whatever they are to offer, which are always bespoke, which are always specific to both the person and the client. And as Anura Zeni once said, I would use a Kikabeo if I had a list of all the services they offer. And unfortunately, that's impossible.
Well, not impossible.
It's not impossible, but there's no real way you could capture the depth and the scope and the complexity of a Kikabeo client relationship without being one of the two.
I think the idea of like having sort of a menu of things like is like strange, because you could probably always end up going off menu.
You could always
when it comes
tweak
to,
it. Yes.
And like it's also an agreement between both sides of the party, so it's not like I want this and this happens. It's a discussion. Is it
a la carte is on the menu?
Yeah, I think so.
So there's not. It's hard to find an a la carte Kikabeo. We'll say that.
Yeah, but I think there are so many things that have opened up this event, and just honestly, not even like Sunday, we didn't actually have any kind of like thing set in stone, no actual meeting or anything.
Everything there that we've just talked about on Sunday, made up on the spot.
Yeah.
Apart from the judgments, probably submitting our judgments was the first thing we did.
And we had intentions of like, I want to go and talk to these people.
But we didn't have anything planned. We'd nothing. There were no meetings. We just found people as and when they were, tracked them down. You know, got lucky to an extent in finding people.
Yeah.
But just tracked people down, bumped into people, sought people out, made it happen.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah. And then Shawnee Swiss rep found us after timeout and gave us a hug and was like, "Thank you for the great role play," and we were like, "Thank you for the great role play. What a great weekend!"
Because it's funny because Shawnee's first impression of us would have been through a dream reading,
where we are very serious.
It's a big serious and we're like, enjoy that. That's what we put forward as our like a first bit of role play. Like we want to get deeper with people, but now we're actually being able to be more of our like fun character day-to-day selves.
Now we've all watched an eel get milked together.
Yeah, it changes you. It
fundamentally changes you. For the better. I think everyone should watch an eel get milked.
Yeah.
If you're asking me. If anyone's asking me that.
I think being able to just get up some fun, and I think it just sort of lightened things, let us be ourselves.
Yeah.
We're more vulnerable and more silly, and we
were comfortable. And that's taken time.
Yeah.
It's taken time to get comfortable, and then from comfort becomes like just being authentic and natural in yourself.
Yes.
And the one other thing, because I don't think we talked about the last point here, is that we were in our own nation as well.
Yeah.
We spent so much more time this event overall in League, and the connection was felt. You know, I felt part of the League community.
Definitely. I sort of put forward this idea, and this is something I use for real life, of like, be a tourist in your own city. And I was like, maybe it's be a tourist in your own nation, and I wrote that down, and then I like crossed out a tourist, and it's just like, be in your own nation, because like I feel like I've spent so much time every summer I've been to trying to get around and explore all of the nations and kind of do that touristy thing, and it's like, actually try and find the people who will like let you just like sit down with them, have a chat, and then it really feels like, okay, I'm inhabiting this place and this character.
And it made the whole of the League Plaza just feel alive.
Yeah, it was super nice.
But that's our event. Best event yet. Except for next event, which will be the best event yet, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably.
It gets better every time. But that's the summary of the event we wanted to do. Very, very exciting. Lots to do in between events. Lots of organisation and mail and things like that to get up to.
I want to get. I want to get in on that, like the heady stuff, the writing stuff, the letters and things like that. I want to do that before anything else, I think. Yeah,
that's very important to in between events. Actually do it right now. Don't just be like, I'm gonna take a little bit of time off, because then, well, this is mainly for us, but then it languishes. So getting on it right away is good.
Getting down the people, the role play, that kind of stuff first, I think is like gonna continually be the lesson for me, and I will have to learn a little bit of it every single time.
You have to unlearn old habits and relearn new ones. But people, you're there to make your own game, speak to people, make things happen, and then it feels great. Feels fantastic.
Super cool.
Cool.
So yeah,
That's
it. And
it's a winner.
yeah, we'll be doing more videos in the coming weeks. But
we'll talk about more specific things about that more, I suppose, transferable aspects of our experience.
Yeah.
Things that we have learned and might change, so maybe useful things for other people to know. Quite a few video ideas and things like that. But we'll do that at some point in the next few weeks.
Yeah, this was just our chance to kind of goof off and talk about our event, and
which is great.
Yeah, hopefully that's fun for you as well.
Yes.
So, yeah, great.
Right.
Cool.
Let us. What was it? Do comments.
Do comments. Talk to us. All that kind of stuff.
All that YouTube stuff. Appreciated.
And remember, he who larps
last. No. What is?